Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Wednesday, August 12th, 2020. And here are our top stories: California's financial response to the pandemic, and Californians continue to save. But joining me now to discuss this and more is California State Treasurer Fiona Ma. Treasurer Ma, thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
No, thank you.
It's great to have you, and we love to speak to our civic leaders, especially those in the Treasury Department. So let's start off. This has obviously been a very difficult time for so many Americans. I would imagine that Californians are in that category. How is the great state of California today, 4 or 5 months into this horrific pandemic?
Yeah, after the Great Recession, Jerry Brown was our governor for the second time, and his father was also a very popular two-time governor. And so he has seen all the ups and downs and really knew that got elected during the Great or post-Great Recession and really focused on paying down all of our debts, establishing fiscal restraint. He did not sign a lot of bills that cost money. And really tried to put us on a path where we would be, financially stable. So before COVID-19, I think we had about $26 billion in our rainy day fund. And if you look at any other state, this was a big amount for our state, but for any state to be saving. So we thought we were going to weather the downturn whenever it came better than other states, and I think we did. The credit rating agencies have not downgraded us because of our fiscal restraint and our high level of savings. However, we still faced a $54 billion deficit in this last June 30th budget. So compared to other states, we thought we were going to do better. We never thought that this pandemic would affect all of us like it did, yet we still face a $54 billion deficit, and hoping that the federal government will still provide us a little bit more assistance, either through the HEROES Act or the infrastructure bill that was passed by the House. So we still have our fingers crossed that more money is coming so that this coming fiscal year and outgoing years is going to be better than we are hoping. So,
yeah, absolutely. And I know there's a lot of great work being done by the men and women in public service in California to support citizens. How has I can only tell you what I read on the news, and I think that all of the local and state government of California really stepped up during this very difficult time to assist small businesses, to assist citizens. How has that response been received?
Well, of course, getting we got $9.2 billion from the CARES Act back in April, and that has gone a long way to assist and start programs that would, help small businesses and individuals. The second or the third stimulus package, the PPP money, also has done really good for small businesses, big businesses initially, and then now the second round for small businesses. And of course, we all, from the state to the local level, we are all trying to do what we can to help our constituents to create new funding programs, either grant or loan programs, to defer certain payments, extensions. But we all understand that we are all in this together, and that we are trying to do whatever we can to alleviate any financial penalties or burdens that we have on our constituents.
Yeah, I mean, kind of helping everybody is really important, and that sense of teamwork really kind of helps galvanize a community. How is reopening going? I know you look at different parts of the United States, and there has been some challenges, to say the least. There's been some maybe some resurgence of the virus, but in general, restaurants, small businesses, how has that gone?
Yeah, so the governor declared a state of emergency on my birthday, March 4th.
Happy birthday.
That's going to be memorable. And then 2 weeks later, March 16th, had the executive order to shelter in place. So for 3 months, there was a lot of pressure from our constituents here in California to reopen. So he did create a phased reopening plan that started about Father's Day of this year. And I think the pent up, people were pent up in their houses. They thought, okay, if we're able to now open, we're going to go out. And people didn't take it seriously. They didn't wear their masks. They didn't social distance. And we saw the first spikes after Father's Day. We saw the second wave of spikes after the July 4th holiday. And of course, now the governor has, again, shut down a lot of the indoor establishments, the bars, anywhere where people are crowding together and hoping that we are going to get control of this pandemic, which we have. So
Right.
the number of positive cases has gone down, which is great, but we are also testing a lot more people. So obviously, you're increasing, the denominator and the numerator, and that also plays into it. But I think California is, again, we're on a kind of partial shutdown again, and we are getting control of the virus for now.
Yeah, and that's incredible, and that's great. And I know people in California appreciate the level of interaction with government and the guidance. When you look out into the remainder of the year, let's talk about economically. You mentioned your bond ratings were reaffirmed, still very positive. You still had a nice rainy day fund. Maybe some of that has eroded. What are some of the things that you and the team at the Treasury and in state government are thinking about for the last, what are we in August? So the last four plus months to go in the year.
Yeah, so we still have a couple of sales this fall that we are going to go to market. And we have seen, even during the pandemic, we were the first state to go back into the bond market. And we were pleasantly surprised that there was a lot of interest and the rates were really good. And since then, all of our bond sales have been really well received. So we hope that in the fall, that is also going to continue. Of course, when we issue bonds for infrastructure projects, that keeps people working. And so we are very cognizant that as we have high unemployment, people need to go back and go back and find either construction jobs, or after the extra $600 unemployment assistance runs out, now people are going to think about going back, because we had a number of constituents that just didn't want to go back to work because they were making more on the extra unemployment by staying home. And now that that has run out, I think reality is starting to hit again, that people have to go back to work and they're going to have to pay their bills again. But again, we are hoping for more help from the federal government. I also oversee 3 savings programs, ScholarShare 529, Cal Savers, and Cal Able. And to our surprise, all 3 programs have seen an increase, an uptick of people who are opening up accounts. So people are thinking about saving for the future. They understand that they need to save more, right? We used to have a saying that you should save at least 3 months of your income just in case something happens. And people just weren't doing it. I guess people got comfortable, spending and taking vacations and buying a lot of things. Interest rates were low. But now I think people are kind of thinking about their futures again, and whether, after we get out of this pandemic, what is going to be the next one that we're going to face.
Yeah, we certainly think that there are some lessons there. I want to talk more about savings when we come back. When we come back right after this break, we're going to talk more with Treasurer Fiona Ma. Stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms? Especially for the smaller businesses. I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
If you are like 58% of Americans, you didn't go to college. Or you did, but never finished. Maybe it's the thought of a big, intimidating campus. At Independence University, all classes are held online. Maybe it's the thought of being alone in a sea of students. At Independence U, you'll get a personal support team to help you every step of the way. Maybe it's the cost of all those books and supplies. Online means no books to buy. We even give you a new laptop and tablet to keep when you graduate. Maybe your life doesn't fit typical college classes. At Independence U, our online college fits your schedule. Let's meet a few students.
Independence University held my hand through the process.
Don't be afraid to take the leap because it has changed my life drastically.
Just take the first step and you can do it. If I did it, you can do it too.
At IU, there's no barriers to your degree.
800-535-9916.
Welcome back. We're talking to the California State Treasurer, Fiona Ma. Treasurer Ma, thank you so much for staying with us this morning.
Yes, of course.
So let's talk about savings, because you mentioned people in California are taking advantage of savings, even though you would expect otherwise, right? You had rapid unemployment, you had people furloughed, a lot of things going against that trend. Is that just a testament to experience? The youth, I'm talking anecdotally. You don't have to have statistics, but is that just based on experience from 2008? What do you think is kind of the reality there?
Well, we were really surprised in the first month that renters were still paying their rent. But as it got further, the second month, the third month, I think people were trying to do what they can to meet all of their financial obligations. And then when we went through our second phase of shutdowns, I think people now are saying, well, I don't know what to do. I can't open. I'm just not going to pay my rent. I'm not going to pay my garbage bill. Come get me, basically, right, is kind of the attitude now. So unfortunately, the longer we are shut down, the harder it is for many businesses. We have many small businesses that have closed permanently. They are never going to go open up. I mean, the rents are way too high. Mm-hmm. And even if we're deferring, mortgage payments or other type of loans, that money is still going to come due at some point. And even if you're able to open up your small business, yet have to pay 3 months of rent up front, well, that's not really going to happen. So we have really been encouraging banks and landlords to, defer their payments, work out a long-term payment plan. Otherwise, these businesses, the tenants are just never going to be able to come back and open.
Yeah, they'll go into bankruptcy. And I think it's in everyone's best interest. The landlord wants to receive money. The tenant obviously wants to pay. They don't want to go into bankruptcy. So it makes sense to communicate and try to work out a payment plan.
Right. And that's what we said early on, is go see your bank. As people were panicking, we said, please go talk to your banker, work out some sort of arrangement. And we work with all the banks here in California. So we also have been spreading that same message, is that you need to work with your customers. Otherwise, they're not going to come back and you're not going to be able to make your payments either. So we are all in this together.
And one of the plans you mentioned was the ABLE plan, and that is a recent legislation that was part of the 529. When it comes to college are colleges starting to think about reopening? I know it varies by locality and what the virus is doing. But is there and I know you don't necessarily, you're not the Department of Education, I understand that, but just in the sense of reopening, are you getting the feeling that some of these schools will reopen, or will they do a lot of virtual types of courses?
Yeah, actually, I chair 15 different boards and commissions, and one oversees education financing. And so I have a little bit of intel. We just had a meeting last week, and some of the charter schools, those that have both dual virtual learning as well as on-site learning, one school received 1,500 new applicants because,
Wow.
yeah, because the school districts, they're kind of on their own trying to figure it out. And those school districts that don't open, it's very difficult for their parents, number one, if they're working. Number two, their children falling behind if they are not able to, to have the proper, curriculum and supervision and teaching that they have at home. So certain institutions that have that type of virtual learning are seeing an increase in enrollment. Certain universities, I also chair a higher education fund. Some of them are going back. Some of them are still closed and to be determined. So it just varies across the board.
Yeah, it seems so. And I've always said during this pandemic, outside of the first responders who have a very important role, clearly parents are like right up there because as you mentioned, they're helping their families, they're working, and now they also have to serve as educator because their children can't go to school. They got to keep them in their chair looking at the computer. A really, really tough time for a lot of parents out there. Last question, when you look at, I want to kind of end the segment on our show's about retirement and savings. We talked a little bit about savings, but more and more we're seeing states and municipalities delve into financial literacy and financial wellness programs. I know this is a really important topic. We didn't hit on Cal Savers. We'll do that in a later episode. And you really have been progressive in taking the steps necessary to help people save. But what about the area of financial wellness and literacy? Are you what are you all doing in that regard?
Well, absolutely. I mean, when I was born, my parents opened up an account for us and they bought stocks, dividend reinvestment stocks. And by the time all three of us went to college, we had enough money for college. And even after we could open up a business or put a down payment on a home. So my parents from early on taught us the importance of savings. Yes, financial literacy is super important. We launched a financial literacy program earlier this year with students between the age of 14 to about 22. And we had 24 students, 4 sessions every Saturday, 9 to 12. And they were impressingly, they were like engaged. They were listening, they were participating, they were going home and doing their homework in terms of setting a plan, and then also just, hungry. Their parents also came. And after the last session, some of the parents said that they got a lot out of it because nobody taught them about financial literacy. So we are going to be launching a financial literacy program that's in our next 6-month to-do list. Since we've got time and everybody's on Zoom meetings, we think we'll be able to launch a pretty good curriculum that can get everybody who wants to listen, from junior high to high school to also parents who are also starting their families. We think it's important that everybody have the understanding or have the basic knowledge, and not a lot of people are doing financial literacy.
Yeah, and this is a really important principle or tenet for the National Association of State Treasurers, right? I mean, you all as a group, as a body, all the treasurers around the United States really heavily focus on this and making this a key movement for your group.
Yeah, I am very active with the National Association of State Treasurers, and yes, we think it should be mandatory. It should be part of the school curriculum. Just like all the other important topics. But, if you don't understand when you go to college, when someone offers you a credit card, and they say, hey, you can get free money, it is not free.
No.
And if you don't pay back your credit card, then that starts you on a downward spiral of affecting your credit rating, not being able to take out credit cards later on, not being able to get a loan. High student loan debt is another area that we are focused on, and we're issuing an op-ed right now and pitching it in terms of all the different ideas that are out there for abating or assisting or refinancing high student loan debt. But that also follows you throughout your life unless you can pay it off. And when you have very high student loan debt, you may never, ever pay it off. And therefore, you're always going to be stuck, like being a renter or using cash and not being able to accumulate credit like most normal people do to buy a house and to also build equity.
Yeah, it could certainly set you back. Well, Treasurer Ma, we really appreciate you coming on the program. Thank you so much for weighing in on the state of California and financial literacy. Very important topic. Great to have you, and look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you, Jeff.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, and so much more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited, and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a Tax Doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.